Well, allow me to ask, first of all, we're in November 26th, the day after, am I correct there? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Day after Thanksgiving, 2004. And I'd like to introduce our guests. And if you want to just go ahead and start.
Want me to start?
Yeah, sure.
I'm Ellen Kivitts. I live here near, and briefly a friend of Edith's. Because Mary and Jimmy Burson lived across the road. We were very close to them. So that's how we met Edith.
Okay.
So we had some, not a long time here, but some interesting times. I don't know that I have any specifics, but maybe it'll come to me after we all get going.
We do have a list of few questions that we're always in, and we're constantly being asked by guests as they come through the house, so if you could shed some light on those as we go through, that would be great. Okay.
I'm Kelly Sims. I'm Ellen's daughter. So I knew Edith in the same way she did. I'm spending a lot of time with the persons across the road who befriended Edith when they all lived here at the Winters. And also Edith decided she wanted to teach my cousin and myself French one summer. So we had some time down here doing that alone, he and I. So that's how I got to know her.
That's where all that started.
I'm Corey Mundweiler, Kelly's cousin, my aunt's nephew. I live in California, but I grew up in Plano. And through my aunt, met Dr. Farnsworth and spent a great deal of time down there.
Okay.
Now, is there any testing you want to do with the equipment, or does it seem like it's all
It's fine.
working along with us?
It's working.
Well, I guess if you could just give us some time frames about when it was that you were here in the house, Dr. Farnsworth, that might help. Any guesses?
It was mid 60s, like 66, 67. I graduated high school in 69. But it was during those junior and senior years that primarily I knew her. And then after I graduated from high school, by that time she had already moved to Florence, and I spent a summer trip with her in Florence, where she had a villa there.
You did spend time with her?
One day we went
One
to
day.
the villa, and she hosted a lunch. It was quite lovely, but she was the grand lady of the hill at that point.
Is that right?
In Tuscany.
We might go back and talk a little bit about that after
Okay.
a bit, if you could. That would be interesting to hear.
Also,
about.
he has some lovely slides of that show.
Oh, is that right?
Wow.
I don't even think I have pictures of the villa, but I don't think I have pictures of her. I'll dig back through it. and see if I do.
So again, you were in school at that time?
In high school,
You were
I
in
was
high
in
school.
Plano High School, and Kelly was 8th grade.
7th grade.
So,
Okay.
And through the Bursons and through my aunt, Edith had asked my aunt if she knew anybody that would like to learn a language. And my aunt said, well, I think my daughter, my cousin, my nephew would like to. And so she said, well, which language would they like to learn? And so she spoke, I think, 6.
5.
5.
Bye.
Right, is that right?
And so she decided if it was going to be French or Italian or Spanish,
Uh-huh.
French, whatever. So she Chinese too, Russian,
I'm not sure.
German.
German.
I think it's German, definitely French, Italian, probably Spanish, and then I don't know, it might have been Russian.
I think it was Russian because she was, or Greek, because she did take a Greek freighter that
That's
trip.
true.
Is
She
that
may
right?
have, I remember her talking about that.
Yeah, I think
She went on as a ship's doctor so that she could do this funny trip on the...
Oh, a ship's physician.
Yes.
on a
And she
freighter.
got a
On a
free
freighter.
trip on the freighter if she would be the physician, which that was really
Oh, fascinating.
exciting.
So it might have been the Greek, because I have a vague recollection of her saying by the time the trip was over, she could communicate with him just fine.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think I heard something about that.
Well, how long did you take lessons?
It was pretty much just through the summer.
One summer,
One summer.
One summer.
once a week probably, wasn't it?
It's on Saturdays. And we'd come down here, and she thought Kelly had a natural gift for language, and she thought Kelly picked it up more quickly than I did, but she thought she should go in as an interpreter. She had these great plans for us that
Is that right?
Kelly was going to be an interpreter, and I was going to have an import business or become a museum curator at the time. So she had these very specific goals for us.
My goodness.
And, you know, being a sophomore in high school and playing on Illinois, you know, I didn't quite connect to being a museum curator at the
No,
time,
but
but
it is.
it was curious. But so it was just one summer, probably the summer of 67, probably 67,
See, I
67.
don't have my math with me about how old would Dr. Farnsworth have been then, you guess?
That's a hard one for me.
Or we could figure backwards one way
You
or
could
another.
figure that out, right,
Yeah, okay.
right, because she died when? You just looked at it, we had a little newsletter at home.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
they had that.
I think she
You know,
died
yeah.
in 77.
Yeah,
Yeah.
77, 79, I was thinking
Yeah.
something like
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, we have that.
at age, what, 79, was it?
She was,
Somewhere in the
yeah, she
70s.
was born in the 20th century, so she would have been in her 70s, I think, when she died.
Yeah, that's what the article said.
Yeah.
That's what she said.
Well, how often would you have the lessons?
Once a week on Saturdays, we'd come
On
down.
Saturdays.
Because at that time, she was going back and forth to the city a lot, so she would just be here on the weekends. And so if she had a place in the city, she'd come out on Thursday or Friday, and we'd come down here on Saturday afternoons. And we'd sit out on the terrace primarily because it was
Yeah.
hot and it was screened in at the time. So we'd sit there and she would start reading, or she'd see a bird go through the trees, and she would start talking about the bird, and then we'd have to recite after it. And then
That's the one thing I remember too, talking about the birds.
very Socratic
In
in the way
French.
that she would try to teach, you know,
Is that
and
right?
so she would say chanson, and, you know, then we'd have to conjugate the verb, and then go through the whole thing, and that's how she was trying to instill the language with us.
Do you know if she taught before?
No, I had the idea that she didn't know much about children at all. I didn't think, did you think so? I don't think, I think she knew much. And as far as that went, we were pretty well behaved children, and they were not young, so we didn't have any problem with that. But the way she tried to relate to us, she didn't know how to, you know, draw us in with that, which made a lot of sense. She was a very bright, sophisticated woman, professional, who had been in a world of professionals and culture. But she, I think, enjoyed our company, you know, for that amount of time. I remember her communicating in a way that she just thought young people needed more culture. She just really thought we needed more
Well,
culture.
her favorite phrase was she wanted to broaden our
Yeah, you need to
horizons.
broaden your horizon.
That was
Well,
her favorite
okay,
phrase.
so we came down here. We
And
did.
you were-
Well, we absolutely did do that.
So she was on a regular basis then, visiting the house during that summer,
Right,
every
right,
week?
we were here.
Every week.
I didn't remember the Saturday part, but every week about I remember coming down here. And basically, she would talk to us in French.
And how long did this last, a session?
A session? Oh, 2-3 hours.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, we'd sit down here, and then she would have tea, and her dog, Amy, her little poodle,
She had a poodle.
she had a poodle, and we could only speak to it in French, because Amy only understood French.
Is that right?
And so
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
So Amy was always clipped and groomed and had little ribbons in her hair. So it's very funny.
He remembered the dog's name. I forgot about the dog's name. I just remember that the Bursons then got a dog later, and
Same kind of dog.
Same
They
kind
named
of
her
dog.
Edie for
and they named their dog Edie. It was after Edith had passed away.
I see.
And they named their dog Edie after that. I remembered that, but I didn't remember that the Edith's dog was Amy.
And I remember, it was hot.
Oh, it was ridiculous. It's like a jungle down here in the summer.
I think I picked you up and gathered you and took you or whatever. Remember that? And then get in the car and say, the first hour, Edith read
Well,
poetry to us.
that was her
Oh, yeah.
break. After we would take a break from doing the French, she would read us the entire
Oh.
rhyme of
And the Ancient Mariner.
all 96 stanzas.
Oh, my goodness.
And that was her idea of taking a break. You know, like we're just
Yeah.
wilting. And that's terrible. So it's just like,
Yeah.
Well, mind if I ask, did you pay her for this
No.
service, or was this all something she wanted to do?
Yeah, she really was concerned that we needed culture, and young people needed culture, and that was a real genuine concern. And she didn't even really involve herself in the local, but if she would have been more motivated to do that, I'm sure, because this is regular rural country people, especially then.
Sure.
It was no opportunity like there is now to do anything cultural around here.
But she'd also, Reverend Holverson's son, remember, she had also kind of engaged him earlier. So she was trying to
Generate something, yeah.
find individuals who are open or receptive to having some kind of influence or exposure to other things. And so that's how she asked the Bursons and got to know my aunt, and that's how we got engaged with her during that process.
And I guess for the record, we should just mention that your father is, well, your
My parents?
yes, local residents.
Well, my parents, yes, they were always local. They were in Plano. My father came from Denmark. And when he was 17, and he had a sponsor here near Plano. He was a Danish man. And he became a hired man on the farm where my mother was born. Her father had passed away, and there were 4 children. So he became their hired man. And then later, he married my mother.
And you have a brother,
I have a brother, Howard.
Howard Christensen.
Howard Christensen. I have a sister, it's Betty Muntweiler. I had brother Paul Christensen, who's passed away, and myself. And we were all born and raised on a farm.
And you said you didn't have as much contact with Dr. Farnsworth as Corey?
No, they were here. Yeah, we would come and spend an evening.
You would?
But she was entertainment for us. We would just sit in awe. She had a little fire making grate, and she would lie on her, sit on that
Yeah, she had one.
chaise lounge there.
She had one sofa here, kind of a classic mid-century, but she always sat in one position, and it was everything else was pristine except for this one corner. It was down cushion that was just like this permanent indention where she always sat in one position, and Amy would sit next to her, but she would just sit there chain smoking the entire time. So
Oh,
The legs
I guess
crossed,
we didn't
right?
legs
know
crossed,
is that right?
always with the hand up. Exactly.
So smoking position.
So,
Smoking cigarette.
Non-stop.
Not
She would
just-
light one from the other one. She wouldn't even use a match. She would just constant.
Okay. Well, we have constant questions about how the house was furnished, and the housekeeper, was she coming out here just visit? Any recollections there? You mentioned some on the furnishings that she had, but
Well, it wasn't as pristinely Miesian as it is now. I mean, it was a little bit more eclectic. It was, I can't remember the carpet particularly, but there was one. But 2 chairs over there and a sofa here. And it was very stark. I mean,
there's a table there with
Table.
oh, right.
horse.
Oh, that's right, her tang horse. She had an amazing collection of Oriental artifacts,
Yeah.
jades and bronzes, which she donated to the Art Institute.
And we were checking the Art Institute to see if they ever put them out.
oh, is that right?
She does. I mean, it's a part of
Are
the
they
rotating
out?
collection. Yeah, I always
Have you been,
look for them when
have
I
you seen
go.
them out? I've not.
There are some pieces on display. The bronzes are on display in the Oriental wing, and we were very fortunate to meet the assistant curator of that department, and she took us behind the closed doors and showed us some other of Dr. Farnsworth's pieces that didn't have quite the integrity of the ones that were on display, but they kept them for study and whatever they do with the other pieces. And there's rooms full of them that are not on display. So we got to see some of her other things, but they do have, yes, it's a great collection. And the lions, do you remember the
Oh,
lions?
yes, yeah, the lines.
Those are now in front of the Smart Museum of Art at the University of Chicago,
Oh, really?
That's
because she did her undergraduate
Yes,
work
she did.
there. So those were given to them eventually, and now they are really just recently put on display.
Okay. Yeah.
They're rather weather-worn.
Yes, they were even then.
And of course, the wardrobe behind us was always under discussion by
Yes,
folks.
I really never got into that part of the house.
Okay.
Did you?
Well, walk through the time when she decided to move to Florence and she was
Oh,
packing.
that
But I
was-
came down here and helped her pack one day. wrapping up the jades.
And she had a lot of items here then?
In the dressing area, she had some jade pieces that were in there, and she had some tablets that were kind of on little stands. They were kind of over in the bedroom area.
What were those things hanging on the wall out in the dining room?
There were other tablets.
Yeah, they look like something from a temple.
Yeah, I don't know if they were Hindu or Chinese, but they were stone reliefs that were mounted on the partitions.
Did she ever talk about herself living in Chicago, family, or any insights like that?
Not, I think maybe more to the adults.
Isaiah, yes.
I remember her telling, I think she was at our home, and I don't think you were home then, this was later. Maybe you were. When she practiced medicine in Chicago. This was during a time when she was not as well known as she was then. She would make house calls. And she must have been in training, I think, then, because she would tell us about the awful hovels that she had to go into. And this woman, they were called into the home, and she was going to have a baby. And of course, it was very nasty in there. It was a hovel situation. So, well, what should we do? And they somehow got a lot of newspaper and put it on the floor. I guess delivered the baby there, but she was very, it was a funny story. I wish I could tell it better, but she was just appalled at the condition of this awful place.
She had to deal with it.
She had to deal with it because I think she was in the training for that right there. But I can't imagine Edith delivering the baby, but must have been in the thing, the works, so she was there. Yeah. Then she also told us about a friend she had. Just spiffets of things she said. I had a patient, who was a friend patient, but she was young, and she just had this terrific urge to dance. She just got up in the morning wanting to dance, and she didn't know what to do about it. And Edith said to her, well, I think it's a wonderful thing that's happening to you. I think you should dance all day. If that's what you enjoy, you should get up in the morning and dance till you don't want to stop, till you want to stop. And that's fine. That was her treatment for that child or woman or young woman. And
That's
that was
representative of how she would talk to
Yes.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah, she could talk,
Very breathy.
yeah, breathy, and it's very expressive.
beautiful,
like that.
articulate.
That's real representative of how she would communicate.
And did she write to you over the years after she moved to Florence or any communication? Okay.
I never heard from her.
She was very angry
Oh,
when she
very
left
angry.
here. She was furious. I remember that real clearly
very,
because of
very.
the road.
The bridge.
Really, and we tried to help her by, we went out and counted cars.
She had a schedule to sit under the bridge.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
So we all took turns sitting under the bridge, keeping track of how many cars went over the bridge an hour.
We had a clicker.
Oh, so you were tracking.
Account,
maybe
yeah,
Yes, because
the,
that bridge was not going to be taken down. She would help it.
Oh, really?
She sued the.
Well, yes, we
There
know
were
that.
several strategies she was going to use to try and get the bridge not to be built and the road straightened and cut into the property and interfere with the house. You can see the road from the house, which is of course how it is, but it used to be farther away and, the view was obstructed. You couldn't see the house from the road, you couldn't see the road from the house. So she was really, really upset about that. So we stood counting cars, and then after everything transpired and the bridge went up, I think that's pretty much what motivated her to leave. She would have stayed. I don't think she would have left.
She was very vitriolic, and
Yeah,
she
she
had a
was
very
bitter.
sharp tongue.
Perhaps if
She
we
was-
could pick up on that in a moment. We have our noisy fan on, and we'll see if we can turn that off and let you kind of take a break for a second. Pick up and find out more about this.
Okay, now we're on.
Well, we left off with the bridge controversy. So it was being proposed, you were out there helping her track the volume.
Oh, I remember that well. It was hot, and I had a bathing suit on. a red polka dot bathing suit sitting under the bridge.
Yeah.
Couldn't wait for my time schedule to go, so we could get out of there and somebody else took over.
Oh, someone else. So she had
We had
an ongoing
we had an ongoing
process.
thing.
Other people couldn't just do that alone.
She was hoping that we could prove that it was not
Warranted.
worth
Use
doing
all-
spending all the money, doing the work, let that, as well as ruining her
Preserving the
perception of,
bridge.
that would ruin the property and, you know, destroy the privacy of the house for the people here, and that it
That was-
just would destroy the privacy.
That was when I was a senior, so that was probably in '69.
Yeah, we've got several articles on file of all that.
Hmm.
But you think she probably would have stayed and not moved then if maybe,
I don't think she would have left.
I doubt
Was she
it.
talking about leaving before that? I don't remember there was an issue at all about her not being happy with this house. I mean, she had other places, right? But she wasn't
Well-
unhappy with this location.
You probably know that she was not happy and after it was built because it was
well,
a
it's
little
on my list of
problem.
questions. Maybe we want to talk about that.
Well, somehow he didn't build it the way she wanted it built. And she said, who would want to live in a pavilion? That's what she called it. This was a pavilion. She wasn't happy with it, really. Then she got to be a pavilion, you know. But she did, I remember her saying, no, I live in a pavilion. And I thought, well, I thought that's what we wanted. Did she want this? We wouldn't have built a glass house unless we talked at great lengths about it.
Right?
But she wasn't happy, and I think it was something that went on with she and Mies, interpersonal, in a way, in person. She might have had I think they had a little romantic thing going, but it was not to be.
Did she address the relationship with
She
Mies or
never
talk about
did.
him at all?
She talked about him vaguely,
Big.
but it was not in a kind way. It was, and not. She was very eccentric.
You're very
Then,
eccentric.
Yeah, she was. And she would, if we were coming, I'm not sure you were always with us when we came. One time she came with a long dress, she had a lounge sort of attire on a lot of the time. What did she have on when she was teaching? Cute
Pants.
pants?
Mm-hmm. I was a little bit like a tunic top.
Colorful? Do you remember?
No, very monochromatic, very,
Is that right?
very
Wasn't a lot of
sophisticated,
color.
very urban, you know.
But we came one time and she had her violin out. She did play violin.
Yes.
She had her violin and a music stand over there, and she evidently had been playing. So of course, we asked her if she would play for us.
Yeah.
Oh, no. No, she said, I don't play for people.
Is that
I
right?
play for my own enjoyment. It would be very it's not, I don't, the words were there, but I don't know what they said. She was very.
Just wouldn't hear of
Not
that.
the fact that she would not play for us, but that she had no problem. But, you know, she was.
Well, we know she had a radio here and a turntable, but you weren't around probably when music or anything like that.
I recall.
I can't recall she had music on. Do you remember? I don't think we had music.
The only social time I remember being down there was after she got back from her Greek freighter trip, and she invited us down, and she had that cognac cake that she brought. And we sat around, it was winter, so it had just evening, and it had just snowed that day, so it was really beautiful. But I don't, that's the only time I would have been down there, but I don't recall music during that
I
time.
don't even recall music. I'm sure she was into music.
Well, you mentioned winter, and we're just always wondering what the house was like in winter, and could you see out? Was there moisture, frost on the windows? Was there
There's condensation, I remember.
I
condensation?
don't remember that we couldn't see it.
No, I mean, it was pitch black, but she had, you
Yeah.
know, those floodlights on and stuff, and it would, because I do remember, you know, here in the evening looking up, and you could see all the snow.
Well, that always is curious too. Folks are wondering about lighting at night. If she had some kind of outside lighting at night. Okay. And inside, then, desk lamps or table or floor lamps of some sort, I
She
suppose.
had a lamp over by the lounge.
Mhm.
It's just a reading lamp, isn't
Like
it?
a floor lamp, though.
Floor, yeah, floor lamp. Other than that, this.
Yeah, this wasn't here when she was here. This was
This
put in
was
by
not here when
Palumbo.
she-
The-
I don't remember this.
I can't
No.
bring
I
that back.
remember that. I remember very low lights.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, there's nothing, no lights installed by me. She had to have a lamp.
Now, I should ask if were any photos ever taken?
Oh, no.
Nothing like
I
that?
don't think
I
that I
think she
remember
would
having
like
that.
Yeah.
She was not an attractive woman.
Okay.
She wasn't at all.
I remember her hair was a little curly but short.
Kind of pinkish gray, mauve color.
Gray.
Mhm.
It used to be light brown and was graying, I think. Is that
Mhm.
approximately?
Rather tall, we understand.
Yes, she
Mhm.
was, she got to be very hunched
Yes.
because she had osteoporosis, and she said, "They're telling me that I can't do what I want to do. What do they think I'm going to do, live in a bird cage? I'm not doing that. I'm living the way I want to live." And by this time, she is getting
Yeah.
She was very
hunched.
Was there much pain or anything?
Oh,
that
yes,
you
she
knew of?
had
Yeah.
pain, she did say that, she
Yeah.
had pain. Oh, those doctors.
Those doctors.
Mhm.
I'm not living like that, like a bird in a cage. They want me to live in a cage. Wow. Not doing that.
Interesting.
Very stern about
She
that.
didn't complain about pain.
She never complained
She
about
wasn't,
pain.
no, she wasn't a whiner about
Well, you mentioned stern. Now, how was she during your lessons?
Stern.
Did that word come up then?
Well, she had high expectations. I
Yeah.
think she didn't, again, like Kelly said, she didn't understand adolescence at all. And we were just, pre-adolescent in a sense. So
She
would-
lectured.
Yeah.
She lectured. She read to us more. She lectured and read to us, and we didn't have a lot of conversation back and forth as far as learning French. It was evident that she didn't really know that part of how to make someone else learn something. She was exposing us to it all, and look, she could read beautifully. I remember her, reading, and that was the interesting part. And it
Very
was,
lyrical.
yeah,
High voice, low voice?
well, I would say.
I think a smoker voice, what do you think?
Yeah.
Raspy?
yeah. That was good. Yeah, very, that's what I remember too.
The other question that comes up from time to time is the driveway came by the house, and as we understand it, where
The driveway is where the driveway is, that
Yes,
first gate.
the first
That
gate.
was the only entrance.
and she would drive down here,
Mhm. Off to the side.
off the side. Do you remember what kind of car? I
No.
can't believe how many people ask
Um,
about that.
Oh, I suppose I do.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious to hear some of the questions.
It seems to me it was a Fiat, I think it was a little
It's a little kind of beige.
Is that- Must have been interesting in snow for her to come out during the winter then, but make
She
her way
didn't go
down.
out about much.
Did not.
I don't think.
She ever brought everything in from the city.
Yeah, she
All her
did when we got to the
provisions.
grocery store,
I
I
see.
think. Maybe she would send my neighbor to the grocery store, probably to me,
Mm-hmm.
to see, they were really good friends.
They were. Hope to
They were
visit with
here a
them.
lot, Mary and Jim. And of course, he had, did you know Toonie? Did you ever know him?
No.
Oh, too bad.
Yeah. Okay.
He was such a character, and she was very stern in her way, and he would just do the funniest things to her, and she'd love it. He'd say- Mary would say, "Toonie, you should do that to Edith." And he'd say, "She loves it, Mary." Or he might just,
He's a character.
yeah, he was a character.
Kind of
like
His full name, just so we,
It's Norman
Norman.
Burson, but everyone knew him as Toomey.
He was the game warden
Yeah.
Mhm.
for his whole life, just about.
Yeah,
Sure.
it seems like, he used to be a wallpaper hanger and painter.
And from what you're saying, she was out here quite a bit then, not just,
And yes, she was here, I lived here. Yeah, she moved, when she came, she moved out here, except she still kept her
so,
in the city.
so more permanent residence here, would you think, than or equal?
I think, would it be half and half?
Yeah.
She did love the city.
Year round here too? Okay.
It was so different. She was just so different. I was on a cancer drive one time, and I had my friend riding with me. And I came to the door and I said, Edith, I'm on the cancer drive. I'm not giving anything to the cancer drive, thank you. And she did ask us in under duress, I think. I said. So we came in and we talked for a few minutes, and she just completely couldn't stand that cancer society. It's just ridiculous. Who would even think of it? It was like a really bad thing I did, being on a cancer drive. But when we left here, my friend said, "Why, that's just like walking into another world." Well, yeah.
First time she met.
First time she met.
It was. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Never knew.
She said, it's just like walking into another world.
Yeah.
I said, well, yeah, Edith is in another world a lot of the time. She's in Italy or wherever. She's amazing.
Yeah. Great.
And then she got into at the end, near the end. She started the translation. Do you remember the Italian? Montale.
Yeah.
You know about the hit.
Oh, yes, we understand.
She
In
worked-
3 volumes or so
Oh,
from one account.
major, and she did a lot of that was going on here. And then her big plan was to meet him in Italy. And I think she was hoping that she and Montale would become an idol.
I see.
I'm sure.
She was just, spoke very highly of him.
Oh,
Very.
Montale was to die for, in my words, not hers. She was so articulate. Even to be this much that articulate would be wonderful.
Yes. But never met him, from what you know. It was just.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
She took all of her translation and went to Italy and had a very big deal set up with him to move him in his home. So then we did get a report on that when she came. I remember her telling us that she was taken into an inside foyer and seated, and then Montale arrived a little bit later, and they had a nice conversation. But you could tell that was very disappointing to her. Whatever she thought was going to happen with her life or their lives together didn't happen. And she was, then that became a sour sort of subject to her too.
As we understand it, she had a degree in English literature from the University of Chicago.
She did. I'm sure she did, yes. She was brilliant.
Now, we had one guest this summer question whether she bought the home or villa in Florence.
Yes, she
It sounded as though there was some controversy with the government and the ownership of that or
I
whatever.
don't know about that.
We've never heard any.
She was so fed up about living in Plano, but also the United States at the time, because she used to thought everybody was communist. She got a little paranoid at that point. And the time she lived and had the house in Florence, she thought it was on top of the hill and she had the water tower. So her water tower was the irrigation source for most of the other vineyards that were down the slope. So they were very dependent upon her regress about the water. And so, but she thought everybody was out to get her for some reason. So the Italian government was full of communists, the U.S. government was full of communists, the whole thing. So she was pretty...
Had some concerns.
Yes.
Along that line.
Well, that would be enough to make it crazy.
Yeah, she was...
Eccentric.
Just to go back to the house, she did have some guests and did entertain some, from what you know beyond you folks.
Not
Neighbors,
many.
not many.
She did have some friends from the city. I think they had an art gallery, maybe. A woman, I remember a woman especially.
And we have interviewed the Emmons.
Yeah, most,
Yeah.
they would have been here. She didn't entertain much.
And no overnight guests, from what you would guess, or that comes up from time to time too, you know.
I didn't know that she did.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean she didn't.
That's right.
The only one that we know of for sure was the gentleman who designed the wardrobe and also the screens for her deck. He and his wife had been invited to spend the night, and they slept in the dining room on a futon, and they complained about the dogs. She had 2 poodles at the time, and the poodles spent the night chasing each other around the central court, running across their bed. They were not
That would be a
amused.
bit disturbing. if it was going to
But that's the only overnight guest that we
I
ever
had
specifically,
That's right.
yeah.
Now, she didn't come to your home or?
Yes, she did once.
Oh, she
I
did?
invited her for dinner.
Mhm.
And I thought, what am I going to do at this dinner for Edith? So I thought, well, I'm really going to do it up. She'll be so shocked. We had hamburgers.
Oh, is that?
But she thought it was great.
Okay. That's right,
She didn't know when she'd had a hamburger. So, but we had good hamburgers. And she told about some of her experiences. Well, that was with the dancing patient and
Okay.
that
That
sort of
came
thing
out
we
of that.
talked about. Can't remember really funny things that ever happened with Edith.
Was she religious, do you know?
No.
No?
Do you remember what she said about the Bible?
No, I don't, do you?
I think you
Oh,
told
yes,
me.
yes, I do, I'm sorry. I'm early Alzheimer's.
Uh-huh.
She told Mary Person, I think, or me, maybe we were here together. We were talking about the Bible, and she said, you know, the Bible is just a beautiful myth. Her exact words.
That's exactly.
Beautiful myth. So I think she did not have any,
Good agnostic, probably.
I think.
Did she ever speak of her family or visits from the family members, or do you know?
She never did, that I remember. She
Yeah.
may have to Mary and Toomey. She was closest to them.
Okay.
But I don't remember her talking about a family. Didn't she have a brother,
She had a nephew, didn't she?
nephew?
Yes, her sister married, and her last name was Carpenter, and this nephew who inherited things from her was Fairbanks Carpenter, but that's the only one I know.
And he was out this spring when the house was dedicated, and had a quick introduction with him, so we hope to meet with him this winter as well. to get some insight.
She came from the Weyerhaeuser lumber people.
It was Weyerhaeuser,
Mhm.
that I wasn't aware of.
The W-E-Y.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. That's.
And I think I remember that she, at some point, had 50% stock in that company. And I'm thinking it was her father's company.
Mhm. That's what we understood, that he was in lumber, and that's where the family wealth came
Yes.
from.
Now, we're also trying to track down when she purchased the parcels of land.
The land.
We have records and information on the original 10 acres around here, but when the other acreage is purchased, so that's an ongoing thing this winter. We hope to track down.
I would not have a clue.
Okay.
Do you remember much about the landscaping, how she had it, did she do much with the landscaping?
No, she didn't do anything really with it.
Tall grass is just all meadow.
Mhm.
Right.
I think it was much more, did she?
No, I don't think there was much of anything done. Everything that was done was way after Peter Palumbo was.
Yeah.
Didn't all-
I was kind of glad to see the statues were gone, actually.
Didn't like them.
To bring it back, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, she didn't have any of those things here, and she didn't do anything about it. I think she wanted it to be just natural.
Just the natural. Ever any talk about the trial itself, when Mies at the end of the construction and all the rest of
No,
that?
she never talked about that to me,
Okay.
or us.
Did she ever mention the flood of 1954 that brought 4 feet of water into her house?
Yes, that's why I have her old silk drapes.
Oh, that were ruined in it.
They were ruined,
Mhm.
and and when she moved out, she called me and asked me if I would, she knew I sewed. And she thought maybe I could use some of that or something. So I said, I'll take them home. Of course.
Mhm.
Beautiful silk, yes.
Oh, my word.
We all have, well, Cory probably doesn't, we all have curtains
Yeah.
various things made from the silk drapes. But there was a water line,
Yeah.
3 foot up, so that was not usable. But here was all the rest of the hundreds of yards of silk.
Now, after they were removed, what did she replace them with?
She didn't, she moved.
Oh, that was it.
Wasn't that right?
No,
No,
that was-
no, I'm sorry, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm wrong.
That's all right.
After that, she had silk drapes put up again, but I think they came from Chicago.
I see.
Some person came and did them. They were lovely too,
Mhm.
and more like the original silk color.
But you don't remember the roll-up lines?
That's what I thought was
Do
here.
do you remember the roll-up lines?
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
don't.
yeah.
She was telling me about, I don't remember the roll-up
Yeah.
lines.
I think that's what was
Outside?
here when we were
Inside?
Mhm.
Outside.
Inside.
Inside.
Mhm.
Well, I'm way back on that one.
Well, I'm running out of questions, I think. You folks have covered a lot of the key things that people keep asking us about. Did she ever go fishing? That's come up a time or two. And
I never
She-
knew.
You couldn't really get to the water much. I remember trying to go down there once.
Oh, is that right?
and she didn't have anything organized for that, so I don't think, you mean right here?
yeah.
I don't think so.
She did have 2 boats
She had 2 boats. Is that
on
right?
a little.
Yeah, we tried to go.
We tried.
Yeah, we
She
tried to
didn't
get out there.
Oh.
We weren't too
No.
handy with it either.
Yeah. Well, it's,
She couldn't understand why we'd want to go out there.
oh,
Because we thought we were frolicking around trying to
Yeah.
be kids.
We were
She was-
goofy, you
we were
know.
Yeah,
goofy,
yeah,
and she
yeah.
just was like, why don't you want to go on a boat?
Yeah.
Frolicking wasn't one of her.
Mm-mm.
That wasn't
in
her
her-
vocabulary.
right. And when she was here, what would you guess she did most of the time when she would just come out to the house?
Well, I imagine she just
Read.
read poetry and
Mm-hmm.
played her violin, maybe.
Yeah,
The one time we saw it out, I suppose maybe she did that.
sure.
I don't think she cooked much ever.
We did meet 2 ladies that had lived down the road, and they said that she'd stop at their farm and buy eggs from their mother. So we know she must have at least boiled an
She
egg,
probably
but
I don't remember eating anything here
did. Never.
ever, no.
ever.
Mhm.
I don't remember if we drank anything here.
Iced tea.
Did we have, okay. Iced tea, I don't remember. See, it was a real big deal. I don't remember. That wasn't what we did. I don't even remember if we dared go to the bathroom. She had kind of an aura about her, almost like those things didn't go on.
I see, yes.
We were
Mhm.
busy doing the other things. And
Did she ever read any of her own poetry to you?
she may have, I don't remember.
The night when she did read some of the translations when she was working on that.
And she had the most articulate voice. It was raspy, but not raspy. But how can you explain it other than a smoker's voice?
Sure.
But she had such a wonderful speaking. Her words were so articulate. Remember
Can you
that?
think of anybody that would remind you?
Wonderful diction.
Oh, very precise.
Every word.
And very slow, very measured, it wasn't spontaneous.
First person I think of is Studs Terkel. You've heard him
Mhm,
speak.
absolutely.
A little bit slower, kind of exact
Definite.
speaking, so that there is no question about what you're saying. It was natural.
Somehow that seems to fit her, the character, what we've learned about her. We understand there are a lot of stories,
Yes.
legends about Dr. Farnsworth and trespassers.
Oh, I have one.
Oh, let's hear it.
Well, it's nothing, I didn't hear the exchange, but we were here, and I don't know who was here with me, but we were here, and a girl was walking out here, and of course, she was right up at it, and she went out to the girl, it was a young girl, and she came back, and said, can you imagine? I just think they can come into anyone's property. It was the only time I ever saw her a little upset. And I had to give her a lecture about that. She just don't walk into people's property without asking. It was very, she probably scared the girl to
You
death.
wouldn't ever do that
The
again.
girl would never do that again.
No.
But she did it in a way, I bet she just did it the way she would do anything. Do you know you're trespassing? I don't appreciate you on my land. Please remove yourself. Something like that.
But there's no fence at the time.
No,
either,
no
so you just
offense,
get down
no,
the road.
no,
It's
I don't know
open.
how the girl got here, in here, I can just remember she was wandering here.
Sure.
That was not to be done, no, no.
We have,
No
we have a
trespassing.
lot of stories about
There you go.
architects who wanted to come and see the house,
Oh,
and she would
she wanted-
remove them.
That was
She
something,
wanted privacy, that was
Well,
the
yes.
most priority for her. And she had, well, an ego, very, I'm thinking about these things now, because we're sitting here, and she had money, very intelligent, very, education at the University of Chicago, was a physician, and all those things, added to any one of those things are an ego builder.
world traveler.
World traveler, all those things. So she had a very healthy ego. And I think maybe something to do with that at the end of her life, she was being let down a little bit. And it was discouraging, But she wouldn't understand that people wouldn't recognize that that was her property. It wouldn't enter her mind that she'd have to put out a fence or a signal
Yeah,
or a sign to say that was.
they should know.
She just had an aura about her that you were just supposed to know that. So, that's the type of person she was. She wasn't mean and nasty though. She never was cruel to us. She never did
No,
anything.
the look
Remember
would get
something?
it done.
Anything.
The look would do it.
Of course, we were scared to do anything, you know.
Yeah.
The only time I remember when I was, because I graduated from high school and I took a trip to Italy in the summer, and that's when I went. It was the summer of '69, and yeah, no, I'm sorry, because I went back when I was in college, and that's when I saw her, because it was like in the '70s, because I went with a college friend, and we went to the villa, and we were talking. We spent some time in Florence the day before we went up to the villa, and she actually came down to get us in the car, and we drove back up to the villa for lunch, and I remember we were talking about the dome at the Duomo, and Brunelleschi had done it, and she was talking about this other person in town who thought Michelangelo had done it, and she said that ignorant little gnome didn't know that Brunelleschi did the dome.
Sounds like her.
And she,
Yeah.
so one time she was, like I said, she was very sharp in her criticism, but very cutting. And
But
so that
not to
ignorant
you.
little gnome, not to me.
To someone who wasn't
Yes.
there.
Not to their face.
Goodness. So then Betsy, when I
Oh,
can
okay.
imagine what she's going to say about us.
I'll have to remember that ignorant little gnome. That's a
Could
good
could
one.
use that. Was it a very large place that she had in
That was
Florence?
grand.
It was.
Yeah.
Are you sure you were doing slides?
I must have, because I took,
I remember the
I just
olive
remember I couldn't,
grove
I probably wouldn't take pictures in front of her. I think when she went retired for a little bit, and
Mhm.
Betsy and I strolled the property for a little while.
Now Betsy is,
Betsy Ryan, who was a college friend of mine, we went to a study program at St. John's College in London, and after the term of that summer, Betsy and I went to Italy, and we flew to Rome and worked our way back up through Italy on the way back to London. And so we're in Florence, and I contacted Edith, and then she invited us up. And
You think she was happy
there?
when you came to see her?
I think so. She was wanting to know what my plans were after college, and I think so.
I know she had lovely lunch.
Yes.
Served
white gloves
with
served and
white
all
gloves.
that. Victoria and
right?
Gina were the servers.
Oh,
the
yes,
house
service of
staff.
the house.
Gina was the cook and Victoria was the houseman, but just, white gloves and the white jacket, very, very formal out in the courtyard. First time I had squash blossoms.
Oh,
was?
right.
yeah, we understand that Parky and Neil's daughter visited Edith in Florence also.
Sue.
And we're anxious to meet her and hear her version. We've heard Parky's version of it, but making sure that she wore her best dress and was on her best behavior, and
even have a copy of a letter that she sent in advance of the visit, just
Oh, that's
making
great.
arrangements and all the
That's
rest of that. So we're fortunate that
I don't
it's
think
kept.
that any of us have anything that she ever wrote. Oh, she did call when she was moving about the drapes, yes. Well, do you think Corey would care about my typewriter? When you came and got the typewriter? Well, he certainly could use it for school or whatever.
I see.
I said, oh, I think, yes, he'd like that. So we
Little
came
green
back.
Olivetti portable.
What was that?
I think I remember it
She
sitting
was
there.
trying to
Yeah,
get
use it for
things
school.
away, which was, probably difficult for her. She wasn't just gonna leave them here.
Right, exactly. So no one
She
walked
got
away
rid of the
with it.
drapes. I can't imagine where the drapes must have been stored. They were stacked. Weren't there
Mhm.
big bundles? You could imagine
Yeah,
yards and yards and yards of this silk.
we understand it was her mother that gave her.
It was a house gift from her mother
It was that, so that's accurate.
when she moved in, and she had them made, and it was pure silk.
And we're also asked about her bed.
That I know nothing
Yeah,
about.
no one does.
No one knows anything about her bed that I know of. I never got in there. Never got really past the kitchen and washroom, restroom.
Did you go to that one yet?
I must have, because I remember the jade in there.
This one, not
Yeah.
that one.
This one.
Yeah.
No, it was not.
But the climate was hot and humid.
Oh, yeah.
Fans she must have had, or at least
You know,
one
I
in here
don't
of
know
some
the
sort.
fans.
We had one day this summer where the air conditioning wasn't functioning in that high humidity day. And the windows
I can't imagine.
steamed up and we couldn't hardly see. And that put us back and said, what did she deal with this many years?
So-
It wasn't closed up. See, that's why it was, it'd been absolutely necessary to have the screen. You
Yeah.
couldn't live without that openness, and then you could have the house open
Yeah.
to the screen and get air.
Yeah,
There is no other way, because the mosquitoes are horrendous down here and by the river. They're just
Sure.
awful. So it was a necessity if you were going to live here without, not too many people had air conditioning then, not like it is now.
right.
I do remember the screen terrace though, had the door was on a pivot, center pivot. So I
Yeah.
thought it
Oh,
was really
yeah,
worth it.
yeah.
It was this big expansive pivoting screen. It was
And
pretty
we have one or two photographs or articles that were done that show that, so we're lucky to have some of that. Joan, anything else?
I wish I could think of something else
Covered
that
so
would
much.
trigger your memories.
We'll probably go in the car and we'll say, oh!
Right in the
I should have told her
Oh, we
this.
should've- oh, well, that won't happen until we get in the car,
Sure.
or home, or at lunch, or somewhere.
Well, we're always glad to talk to you. If you remember something else, just call us and we'll make
So-
notes.
Is this, you're putting this together to present to the people that?
Well,
come
just
to
the
visit
archive
the
first for our
The
own
archives.
and background, because as we'll be taking on a lot of new tour guides, and part of the tour training, we just feel it's important to have as much accurate information as we can. The other part of it is that the National Trust now, so they're the official owners, they've started a program of study of the house, coming up with what they call a master plan. And they need any and all information that they can get. And they're just anxious to hear stories like this. In the end, they'll decide how the house should be interpreted. Right now, it's the way Lord Colombo left it with the Mies furniture. Whether or not they choose to say, well, it should be the way Dr. Farnsworth had it. And we need photographs and all the rest of
I
that.
can
So there's a
remember
lot of
those chairs and
decision-making that will go on, and this will be just invaluable to have some insight like this for them to help sort through, the information. Then we're also, in our resource center, just going to provide information like this. So if we do have students coming out and they just want to get that insight that you gave us today, that they can, because it's just not available elsewhere. And perhaps down the line, we'll put this together in some kind of printed form and have available. But right now, it's just fact finding is what we're into.
I am so happy the National Trust has it.
Yeah, totally.
I was scared to death when the Illinois people were done it. I thought that I can't even think about what's going to happen in that
Well,
place.
from what we're
Not
seeing,
being critical of Illinois, but you
Right.
know, they didn't have a clue about this house.
I think Edith would be.
She would have been up there just wherever.
Yeah.
Haunted,
Big smile.
haunted.
She would, yeah, she would
Oh.
be really.
The government.
The government,
Yeah.
Okay,
The government's got
can
it.
we, can we stop?
To autograph it and say, yes, you know, we could use this or whatever. Perhaps I can give you a copy to look at, and I have one for each of you. If you're open to that kind of thing, I can just pass this around for autograph.
And we can make you a copy of this tape for your own
Oh,
records
wouldn't
if you would like to have it.
I have a pen. If you want. There's one there. Help us. Perhaps this will help.
Thank you so much.
Oops, I think the red book, it's okay. When they were running out of ink. but you
Oh.
didn't.
Came back. No, we've had bus loads from all over the world here so
Understand.
far.
Yeah,
Um,
that,
Just amazing. And that's now in keeping with what she would look like.
this would be acceptable, as long as she's got it with the National Trust.
Can I slip out this other form underneath your copy? There you go. Yeah.
How do you think Dr. Farnsworth would have felt about the fact that, in spite of her many accomplishments and great talent and intelligence, that today she is known for this house, not her
I
own?
don't know, that's a good question.
Would that have bothered her?
I don't think it would that much. Because she would be, it would be her contribution, and it's an art form. It's a cultural thing. And so I don't think,
I
she
think
might be a
now
little
that it's
bit
into the
because
National Trust, I
of,
think she would
The
be
connection
okay
between
with
her
that.
and me, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna say, that it didn't end up being a good thing between the two of them that carried on and in the house and in a cohesive way. It was, but she didn't just hate the house then. I almost think she expressed the negative things about it because she was angry with whatever happened between the two of them.
Yes, I agree.
And I wasn't even that old at the time, but I could see that would have been, according to what she,
I think
She
she
remembers
and Mies
it,
did have
that-
a romance.
there might have been some ambivalence there because something didn't work the way she had thought it would or wanted it to,
Mhm.
but that's not why she left the house.
I think she would have been gratified because she was so adamant about the ignorance of the county at the time.
Right, and
you
now
know,
look where we are
and so
compared to
it-
then,
it would
and
prove
how,
her.
and
Mhm.
how the house, how you all are taking control of this, and this is what she would feel honored, I think, that you're taking,
I hope
making
so.
efforts and to put it back the way you're in agreement with her on how.
I think she'd be justified.
Yeah,
She
be
would
justified,
she would be-
right.
There.
Yeah,
Right,
so there,
right.
exactly.
Right, see, I told you so kind of a thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But it would not be any of this, well, what about my this or what about my that? No, we didn't hear about those things. What she talked about when she came here were the cultural
Were the
things.
culture.
Yeah, I think she'd be pretty happy.
And now this is the epitome of cultural things,
Yes.
Yeah.
yes.
world famous.
Mhm.
When I was in Los
Revered.
Angeles and I would say, I'm from Plano, and they'd go like, oh my gosh, Farnsworth House. It would just be immediate,
Right,
everywhere
I
I'd
get
go.
that,
And I said, well, I
yeah.
met Dr. Farnsworth. You were in the house, and then it just
Yeah.
like,
Oh.
went on from there.
It
you know,
just-
so no matter where you go, and as long as you kind of just had that recognizable,
They would know.
Yeah.
association to the house.
At one time.
And I had so many friends that were architects, or are architects, so they were just like, oh my gosh, you've actually been there.
They've not come out here, right? Any of your friends?
Well, a lot of them, the ones that were raised in Chicago and out of Los Angeles, they were very familiar with house.
Well, the Terra, is it Terra, the art
Museum of Fine
gallery,
Art,
yeah.
yeah.
I didn't know that it was there. A friend of mine went put all that together, and here all of a sudden there's this whole thing about the Farnsworth House. And I'm just shrieking to my friend, Jenny, let's go, what's that?
Oh,
And she didn't care a hoot about this house, and so she left the building and went back to the hotel. I didn't even know it. I was so engrossed.
oh
I
my
was
gosh.
beautiful exhibition for the house, and how important it was, and the whole thing. She didn't care. But that's the way Plano is. too.
Yeah, well,
They're fussing about, why making a fuss about the glass house? Yeah, who'd want that? Who'd want that glass house?
I understand.
It's like they
Still ready for
don't
that.
even want to open up anything to accept that.
That was too much for Corey and I. We don't live here anymore.
That was-
No, they left.
Major-
Half
He
gone.
really got away. I just got to the western suburbs. I live in Lombard.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, too, we get so many visitors, and of course, the architects are focused on Mies all the time. And almost dismiss it was Dr. Farnsworth's input and
That's-
so on, and that's one of the things we keep striving for here is to get information like you've given us today to help round that out.
I sure hope you find the drake eventually.
That'll be our quest.
I think they couldn't have just discarded that drape.
Oh, no.
No, they
Oh,
wouldn't
no.
have. It's somewhere.
I
And it
think,
looks exactly, it's got the
The plates,
hardwares
yes.
on it,
The
the little
plates,
These are way
Brown.
too white.
yeah.
fasteners, they're all on the edge, and I think they're pleated just about
Do these
exactly.
have weights
I
at
think
the
it's-
bottom?
no,
Pleated
they do not.
exactly the
Oh, the
same.
original ones had weights.
So they have weights at the
No.
bottom of the drape.
Yeah, I think I have the weights.
I
Oh,
have
my
some
goodness.
weights.
You might have some, I see. You know, it's too hard to, well, they weren't in a condition to use in the form, and they're heavy. The weights are even heavier than, you know, when they're in there. And so it's a lot easier to take them out. They're just a cord with, you know, little
Iron,
weights,
lead
Lead weight.
keys or something.
Yeah.
lead or something, yeah. But they wouldn't hang
When I
nice.
walked in today, I thought, oh no, this is not it. It's too white.
It's too white, yeah, the drape is dark, it's darker. It's
That's also
a golden,
to the
dusty,
It's almost,
natural,
yeah,
it's natural color.
Oh,
And it's very grainy,
yeah.
grainier
Nubs
than that.
of the
But
pure
I hope
silver
you do
Mm.
find it.
gorgeous.
I'll be real disappointed if you don't, but.
Yeah.
I think that Lord Palumbo might still have
I
some
didn't
of
give
this.
it to anybody in this house. I gave it to them in the visitor center.
Yeah, yeah.
And we opened it all up in the office and so they could see how big it was. And
Mhm.
But that
and
was a
they
few
really
years
were-
ago when,
it was 3 or 4 years ago.
then he's still
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah, that's good.
We're working
That's good.
on
But he's-
gradually getting the
yeah.
things back that belong here.
I would think there wouldn't be any question about what it is.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Obvious.
Um,
And the Primavera wood behind us here, of course, this is new, 1997, but was darker.
This is the
That's,
color.
That was
that's
the
what
color.
it looked like.
Mhm.
That's
That
right
color.
there. In fact, I don't remember, that must have been camouflage when I came in here, or I don't remember seeing
The
that.
screen here, did you?
I remember the person who walked through with my father and I, because I was, well, that's not right, you know?
Yeah.
That's how you get. when
That's
you know
right.
how-
We have a
something.
picture of it that shows the wardrobe facing this way.
Okay,
It's very
but
Instead
I
of
don't
that
think,
way.
you couldn't see that.
I don't.
Somehow it wasn't visible because I walked in right now and said, oh, well, there's the right wood. Why didn't I see it before?
Mhm.
And what she did was open, in the kitchen, the inside of one of the cupboards
Mhm.
was still like that.
Yeah.
And she said,
That's
is this what you remember? And, yeah, that's what it
That's
looked
what
like.
it was.
Were these refinished or replaced?
Apparently,
Replaced.
this is the natural state of and over time, and it's starting to darken now. In fact, we'll go over there before we go and open up a door, and you can see the change in the color.
Yeah.
And
Because
so
that's
the
right.
National Trust, was interested on the color change. Was something applied to that over time, or was it just light that naturally darkened it?
We had thought there was a possibility that after the flood of 1954, she might have done some staining to cover the watermark,
Mm.
but I don't know for sure.
And she was a real fascinating woman. She was very unique. Well, everybody, I mean, we all are, but she was.
Well, we did have a play this summer.
Yes, I heard about that, and Peter Henning had the brochure and said, I wish that I would have thought about it. I would love to have you have seen it. And he said, if they do it again, I'll make sure you go.
Well, I
So
hope
I
we
don't
do.
know if it's going to be a yearly event, or 2 years, or 3
Yeah,
years.
they've talked about
I
that,
think
doing
it's
doing
so
it
popular.
annually. It was
He sounds
delightful.
wonderful.
Is it associated with the good one? Is it?
No,
No.
A lady out of the city produced this a number of years, 4 or 5 years ago, I guess.
mhm.
And then for a fundraiser, just decided now that the house is in care of the National Trust, to put it on here. So the porch was the stage, and it was Mies starring, and Dr. Farnsworth, Laura Marks, Mies's assistant, and then Philip Johnson. And it just chronicled the house and the events of the day and the relationships between all those folks. And it was just delightful. And you had to pinch yourself.
Well,
Because here it was on the stage, and the fellow who played Mies was just
He
great.
looked like
He
me, a
looked
big
and
guy,
sounded,
sort of
you know,
gray,
yeah.
fabulous. The only thing wrong with Edith was that she was a very petite and attractive lady, and we thought,
not attractive.
Not
No.
no.
the connection. But it was,
No, she was very.
You know, she kind of, my memory, there's a little hint of Lily Tomlin.
Oh my.
Well,
okay.
A hint of the face.
Mm-hmm. Sort
But
of
her
a
feet-
long
her teeth
face.
were-
very long, very
Long,
very
yeah.
angular.
That, do you know what I mean? Can you
Mhm.
see where I see
But
that?
very French looking, I would say, you know, Gallic in a sense, because she's very elongated face, very pronounced nose,
Yeah.
very flaring nostrils. She always liked to have. She was.
Nationality, do we know what her heritage is? What?
Farnsworth sounds British to me,
It
but
does.
I don't know.
Somebody could get on your genealogy with that.
Mhm.
Well-
That would be
Well,
an
I hope-
idea for you.
That's where we need Mr. Carpenter down
Yes.
here
Yeah.
to enlighten
A
us.
few of the
That's high
names, I
priority.
mean, that's, so much of that is done for you, if you know the right names
Sure.
on that registry now.
We'll add it to our long list.
Of things to do.
Well, we don't want to drag this out.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
nice,
This
and
has
we
been
enjoyed it.
lovely. I haven't been here since.
I'll have to show you all the way around then, now that the plumbers are gone.
It's great.
Yeah.
Well, great.
Thank you
But
so
I
much.
do
Thank you
remember the
very
chairs.
much.
Do you remember the chairs? You don't remember the chairs?
Oh.
Chairs?
Tell us about the
So much
chairs.
into furniture then.
He was into it then.
Not that much,
What
were you?
design would they have been?
They were Mises chairs.
They were Mies?
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
that
now-
question comes up now a lot.
They were
She
Mises
had
chairs.
Mies chairs in this house?
Yes.
What were
He
they?
designed them.
Good, we understood
They're
that she
chrome.
wouldn't
They-
have
they-
Was
Mies
it the
Number
furniture.
Barcelona chair?
Hmm?
Was the Barcelona chair?
I'm not sure what Barcelona is.
It has
The
an
legs-
X leg.
Excellent.
Yes, that's what they were. Dark. Remember that?
Was it brown or the black one?
I think they were black.
With leather,
Yes.
and the upholstery was buttoned like this.
We have several Ottoman Barcelonas just behind the
Okay.
wardrobe.
I
You could
remember
look at
those
that.
chairs. Why do I remember that? so
Well,
well?
there you go.
Well, that's interesting. That's two people now that say that there was Mies furniture in the house.
Mr. Colombo's chairs?
Yes.
Lord
Yeah.
Colombo's
Yes.
chairs?
And these are all these designs. Now, this one is in the
Yeah,
late
it was
20s.
sitting
Czechoslovakia,
the
all to
opposite
that
direction of
house.
that one.
And that was about 5 or 7 times